Download my free Legato course right now and learn to play fast in the fastest way possible. It's 4 core exercises that you need to focus on in order to reach the highest level of mastery. And then I'm going to give you the 3 sub-skills of Legato. Once you master these 3 little skills, then the overall skill of playing very fast runs using hammer-ons and pull-offs will be very easy. So go sign up right now and get immediate access for free. See you in the course.
My name is Claus, and in this video we're going to look at a very important principle that will double, triple or even quadruple your practicing results very easily just by using your mind in a slightly different way. Of course your results using this method will vary depending on how much of this principle you're using already intuitively. So what is it? Well, if you have an engine in a car, it consists of different parts, and if one part is broken, the whole engine is broken. If one part is working 50%, then the whole engine is working 50%. The same thing goes for a recipe in a cake, for instance. You have different ingredients, and if one of the ingredients is a rotten egg instead of a fresh egg, the whole cake is going to suffer. So the cake cannot be better, any better than, you know, the least qualitative ingredient. I hope that makes sense. But let's look at alternate picking, which is more relevant here. So let's say this is a graph, and let's say you're pretty good at picking up and down on one string. You've been practicing that a lot, so you're pretty good at that. And you can, let's say this is speed up here, right? How fast can you do it? What's your level of mastery in doing it? And these are the challenges of alternate picking. In the last video we talked about the 7 challenges of alternate picking. We also have 7 different things, 7 different parts of alternate picking that has to work at a certain level, and if one of them doesn't work, let's say my outside string shifts are, you know, I can't really play them very fast, then of course if I have to play a full alternate picking run, I cannot play it any faster than the least qualitative, whatever. Let's say this is my inside string shifts. I'm better at those, right? And then I have a 4th challenge here that lies there. So this is how my alternate, this is just an illustration, right, to understand the concept. So let's say this is my alternate picking skill here. You could take the 7 challenges and do the same thing. What I did in the past, and I did that a lot, you know, about a year of practicing, really focused practicing. I practiced the sequence. Let me say let's say there's 6 notes up, right? Like that. So I could play that over and over again for months, you know, really focusing on it. But what happens when you do that? Well, first of all, just that little 6-note lick there, 6 notes up, would mean that this is just an approximation. This is just, you know, to illustrate the concept here. Let's say that when I practice that 6-note lick over and over again, I'm actually picking up and down 50% of the time. 5% of the time, or let's say 10, just to be fair, 10% of the time I'm doing outside string shifts within that little sequence, right? And 10% of the time I'm doing inside. This is, again, just an approximation. So that leaves 30% for the last challenge over here. This is what goes on whenever you're practicing anything when it's alternate picking. You're practicing an exercise, a lick, a sequence, whatever it is, and you'll be looking at this picture every single time. There's always some skills within the alternate picking skill that you're better at than others, and sometimes there's huge gaps. This is a huge gap right here. Because as I was practicing, what really happened was, and I thought I really used my time well. I thought I was really being efficient because I was practicing all the time, right? And I was praying that I couldn't for the life of me understand why I was progressing so slowly until it dawned on me that this principle is at work all the time. So I would practice, I would spend, let's just say I spent 10 hours, whatever, and I did 10,000 repetitions during those 10, that's actually not a lot during 10 hours. But let's just say that, I did 1,000 repetitions for 10 hours. then 50% of those were actually useless because you weren't even challenged when you were practicing the up and down movements on one string. It was just too easy, right? So there was no development. The brain just goes, I can already do that. Why would I grow here? Why would I learn anything new? And then you practice this for 10% of the time. That means if you've been spending 10 hours practicing alternate picking, in fact, what you got out of it was just, let's just say, it was just right here, an increase of, let's say, 0.001%. Because that's how much you got better at that challenge there by practicing it 1 hour. And in between all kinds of stuff. So you didn't really have your full focus on that challenge alone. So this is how it is always. You know, we practice the same thing if you learn a song. It's very visible, very clear when we're playing a song, and we get to that point where we can't get any further because there's a chord there that's uncomfortable, whatever. It's very easy to see that, hey, you got to focus on that little part there. You got to play that over and over again, because otherwise, when you're on stage, it doesn't help you that you're pretty good at the verse or whatever. If you can't handle that, it's all going to fall apart, right? But we don't see that when we're practicing alternate picking because we have a tendency to see it as one thing, right? And so in order to be good at using this principle, we must do something else. We must be very good at designing, and this is the key here, this is the point. We must be very good at designing exercises that focuses on our main challenge, and that's always the lowest out of the 7, right? So if you're not very good at the outside string shifts, and I'm going to show you in a second how you do this, then of course we need to design an exercise that focuses more on that and less on everything else, right? So let me show you on the fretboard how you identify and isolate the challenge and then design an exercise that will target that specific challenge. So you have your focus on the challenge so that you can take this X here and move it all the way up here and stop wasting time practicing irrelevant stuff, right? That is the key. So if you can do this, then you will make leaps, you know, sometimes big leaps in your development by focusing on the missing link, the weakest link in the chain, the thing that can, the focus that can give you the most growth the fastest possible, right? That's what we want. So let's look at it. So let's have a look at the actual mechanics of this. If you have a big run or a longer run, like whatever, right? Then, and you're practicing it over and over again, then it's going to be pretty easy for you to determine where you are weak, right? Because you're playing, and then you're going to feel the weak spots, right? And so you can just take away all the remaining run and just try to design. You can say, okay, what am I doing here? I'm going, okay, then I could go. If I don't want to make a loop, because that's the best thing, if I could do, you know, take that little thing there and then create a circular exercise that I don't have to stop. But so that's pretty easy to identify the weakest links there. But if you're looking at a little exercise like just playing 6 notes, you know, 6 notes in one shape here, 6-note shape, we have the 9, 10, 12 on the D string and 9, 10th and 12th on the G string, the 2 middle strings here. And I'm playing just 6 notes up, right, starting with the downstroke. Then I'm moving up to the 14th, 12th and 10th on both the G string and the D string. Hit the highest note with the downstroke and play 6 notes down in that shape. Check out the tabs. I might be practicing that over and over again and be pretty confident that I'm practicing alternate picking very focused. But it turns out that my, let's say my inside string shifts up here, that is, you know, the worst part, the slowest part of my picking, because every time I take it up to speed, I kind of, you know, the tempo goes down there because I can't do it. So now let's reduce the amount of notes I play around this challenge and get some results in half the time. So it was up here, right? So I'm just going to start with playing the 6 notes, right? And then just do that over and over again. What that means is that I now have 2 notes in the beginning, and then I have the string shift, and then I have 2 notes. Right? So and you might say, but why, Claus, why aren't you just doing, or why aren't you just practicing shifting strings like that? Because that is not what I do when I play. Because when I play, I have 2 notes first, and then I have the string shift, and then 2 notes after. So I get an inlet to my string shift. And if you're running and then jumping once in a while, you know, every 10 meters you're jumping, then that's one discipline. But if you are jumping all the time without running, that's a totally different discipline. And that's the same thing. You jump, 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 jump without running, without having any inlet. So this is not challenge isolation. This exercise would definitely support the challenge. But it's not isolating the challenge, because this is not the challenge. The challenge is playing a couple of notes first, then the challenge, and then afterwards. So this is actually a good isolation exercise. But I can do even more. Because I can only really close down here. I say, this was my challenge, right? The inside string shift. So if I go, I would stop right after the challenge. And now I suddenly have a tool, because I can play. And that little pause there allows me to focus on the last 2 notes of what I just played every single time. I get my inlet and I get my challenge. And then I can alternate between this. And I can even practice fast this way. I can speed up the process. And see if I can do that. You know, play those 4 notes rapidly. And then I can do just to feel the movement in my hands. So now I'm really targeted in towards that challenge. Another example could be our classic Paul Gilbert 4 notes up and down. Like that. So you have the 9, 10 and 12 on the D string. You play these 3 notes, then you hit the 9th fret on the G string one time with an upstroke on the G string there, and then back again to the 12th on the D string, and then 10, and then 9th. This is 9th, this is 10th, and 12th, and then 9th again. And I should say I've tuned down 1/2 step because I couldn't get anything else than high tension classical strings on my flamenco acoustic here, so I just tuned down. And if you have an acoustic, you might want to tune down as well, because making it easy on yourself in the beginning is really a good idea. So I want to focus in on the challenge, and the challenge obviously here is not picking on one string, but it's the double string shift. I go from this note on the G string to that note on the G string, and then back again right away. It's like having no inlet, right? You have 2 jumps, like running, 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 and then jump, jump, and then running. That's another thing than running, jump, running. And if I start with a downstroke, then my string shifting here is an outside string, double string shift. And I want to focus on that, but I only have these 2 notes first, and then the challenge of outside double string shift, and then back again. So this really looks like the ideal focused exercise for this challenge here. But I can do even better than that. As I said before, like I did up here, I can stop. Right? This is even hard in midway in the challenge, because I only did 1 of the string shifts. Right? And then I have the back again. So I could go, or I could start going first. But I have to go back again, right, to have the whole challenge down. So once I become comfortable with this, I could go back, right, and so on. So, and then I can work, because I have that little break there, I can really focus on that challenge, and that just happens naturally, because it's the last thing you hear. And the last thing people hear, the last thing in a chapter in a book, is what people remember. The last thing just before the commercials is the one thing you remember the most about what happened in the movie. Often. So that's the brain, how the brain works. So that's what you do, you stop. And that's really the technique you use to own in on the challenge completely. And then afterwards, once you've been doing that, you can go back to that challenge, right? So that's the principle. So I hope that was helpful to you. It's very rare to see someone pick up a piece of information and then just apply it massively for the rest of his life. Usually what happens is that we hear something and we go, oh, that's a cool idea. But then we really forget when we sit with the instrument. We just go back into our old habits and routines, and we forget about the principle. And we forget about practicing, applying it every single time we sit down and practice. So here's a very easy thing you can do. It only takes you 1 minute or less, and you can do it now, and it will have an inordinate effect on you implementing this principle. What you simply do is take a white piece of paper and write the question, am I working on the right thing right now? Question mark. And then you put it on the wall, or you write it on a post-it note, but make sure it's in a place where you cannot not read it when you sit down to practice. Because we cannot not read stuff that is right in front of us. You know how it is to go to the same subway station or railway station or drive in the same areas of town every day, and you see the same billboard, 100 times, and you just glance over and you read the text, right? Maybe you don't want those words in your head, but it's just involuntary. You can't really help it. You're just reading it. So if you do that right now, if you make that little action, put it on your wall, then you're guaranteed that you will read it. And furthermore, you are also guaranteed that your brain is going to try and answer it. If I ask you, for instance, right now, what color this guitar is, bam, instantly, before I even finished asking the question, your brain is already involved in asking it. Or if I say, don't think about a pink elephant, for instance. You don't really have control 100% of what goes on in there, and you can use that to make sure that you implement this philosophy here when you practice, because it's going to mean a massive amount of progress. Yeah, so that's it. I'll just see you in the next video.